change has a reason. Baby, let it come to you. Every soul, every season lives outside of status quo.
Hey guys, it is Casey with Accidental Homeschoolers. If you are new to my channel, I'm a homeschooling mom of two. I'm a former teacher and I love to share everything about homeschool and our crazy lives as it is involved in homeschooling. So if you missed part one, this is part two. So my good friend Sarah, who actually gave me tons of advice from being a homeschool mom, from her perspective, from being homeschooled to now homeschooling her own children. She answered so many of my questions because I wanted to know if I was doing the right thing for my son. We all are constantly, as moms, just worrying all the time. Did we do the right thing for our kids? Are we doing the right thing? Are we doing the right thing? You are. She has some great answers. So I had to split up the questions that I asked her and her answers into two videos because I didn't want it to be overwhelming. So if you missed part one, I will link it below. And let's get started on part two. Question number one, did you feel prepared for life being homeschooled versus going to public school?
Absolutely. I think it's kind of a funny question that I would potentially say no, I did not feel prepared for life. In some ways I felt I was more prepared than public school kids, and maybe in other ways I wasn't. Sometimes when you're homeschooled and you do have all that flexibility, when you get into a job or college and there isn't that flexibility, sometimes homeschoolers struggle. Me being a person who thrived on structure, I did not struggle with that. I mentioned earlier in college that I realized what a good education I had received and what on average a poor education many of my fellow college students had received. I tested out of freshman biology because of Apologia Science. I cannot recommend that science curriculum enough. Apologia Science, it is fabulous. Often students were coming to me asking me, a freshman, I would have juniors and seniors come up to me asking me to proofread their papers because they were struggling or failing a class and the teacher was giving them F's on papers, and it really wasn't so much, it was the quality of their writing, not the information that they had. They had good information, they just didn't know how to write a complete sentence. They were writing in phrases the whole time. So I was more prepared for that than they were, obviously. Not only in just academics, I felt like I was just more prepared. One of the nice things about being homeschooled is you're often the only person your age in your family. If you're a twin, maybe of one other person, but I can relate to people of multiple different levels. So I had no problem going to a professor and talking to them. If I didn't understand something, I knew some kids who wouldn't go talk to professors because they're like, well, they're a weird old lady. I'm like, okay, well, she's grading you and you currently have a C, so why don't you go and talk to her and see if she'll help you? I have no problem talking to or relating to or being in a room and having a conversation with anyone of any age, any gender. It does not bother me, and I really attribute that to homeschooling. When you're in public school, they put you in a class with a bunch of other people, like 20 other people, just the same age, just as stupid and immature as you are. And then when we turn 18, it's like, oh, here's the real world. And then there's people who don't know how to relate to someone older or younger than them. Also, when I was in college, I was handling 2 part-time jobs and being a full-time student. And I graduated with above a 3.5. So I was very good at keeping track of my work when things were due. Again, I don't know how much of that was homeschooling or just my personality. and the fact that I like structure and I thrive on it and organization.
All right, question number 2. Would you have preferred to go to in-person school and not have been homeschooled?
In elementary school, no. I was actually a very shy kid. That might seem hard to believe now, but I was. And the thought of going to school actually scared me. Also, our schoolwork sounded more fun than what my friends who were in public school did. I would tell them, you know, we made a volcano in the sandbox and made it explode for science, and my friends were like, well, we don't do anything cool like that. So public school and elementary grades did not sound appealing to me. Junior high, I probably would have said yes, but it's the reasoning and logic of an immature 12-year-old behind that yes. Now I would have said no. The only reason I would have said yes is because when I was 12, I had to write my first research paper, and it really was a humbling experience for me. I had never done that before. It was a struggle. It was a struggle for me. It was a struggle for my mom. There were a lot of long afternoons, and even working on it in the evening after dinner with my dad, just struggling to write this research paper. And it's a long story, but I had to write it on a subject I really didn't care about. It was supposed to be a larger, broader concept research paper, but I ended up having a whole bunch of information on one aspect of it and not so much on the others. So I just ended up doing a more intimate research paper on this one specific event in Pennsylvania history. And it was not an event I would have picked. I actually knew nothing about. I know a lot about it now, and I still remember stuff about this historic event that happened in Pennsylvania because of this horrible research paper I wrote. But it was humbling. It really kicked my butt. I used to think I was a good writer, and that year I thought I was a terrible writer. It was a lot of frustration. I just remember hating. I let it ruin my whole year of school. I hated every aspect of school that year, and I was convinced that if I was in public school, it would have been better. It probably wouldn't. I probably would have been struggling with maybe a research paper there as well, and not getting one-on-one help from my mom in the afternoon and my dad in the evening, which really helped form me into the good writer I am. But it was a very painful process. So in junior high, I just wanted to escape school, period. Any way, any form, I wanted to get out of school. And I thought public school had to have been easier because I don't know why I thought it was easier, but I just thought it would have been easier. In high school, I didn't have a lot of friends in high school due to some girl drama in our homeschool group. So I could see the appeal of going to public school at that age because you'd have friends. But the public school district I was in was the worst public school district in our county. They just did not have good graduation rates, test scores. So for that reason, I knew if I just stayed home, I would be getting a better education, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I had a goal for what I wanted to do once I graduated high school, and I was really just determined and motivated to plug away, do my schoolwork at home. It would have been nice to have friends, but I didn't necessarily need them. But it was a pretty lonely, especially the last 3 years of high school. They were pretty lonely for me, but it didn't have to be that way. And it often isn't. You can often get really good friends for your kids if you homeschool them. It was just a long story, and I just didn't have many friends. All my friends were guys, and which wasn't bad, but it would have been nice to have a girlfriend, one or two, in high school, and I just didn't have that.
Question number 3. What advice do you have for homeschooling moms?
I don't have any advice for homeschooling a high schooler because I haven't done that yet. But no matter what age you're thinking about homeschooling, or for however long you're thinking about homeschooling, I truly believe you would have to do absolutely nothing with your child to fail them. I'm a firm believer that a little bit of time consistently over a longer period is better than a lot of time sporadically. It's kind of the classical method of thought. A little bit over a long period of time is better than a lot sporadically. There's also nothing saying that you can't learn alongside with your child. So if the thought of teaching geometry to your high schooler intimidates you, just learn with your child. It might honestly strengthen your relationship with your teen if you just tell them, hey, I really struggled with geometry. I didn't like it. This year we have to do geometry, so we're gonna learn together. There's nothing saying you can't do that. No one goes into a situation knowing all the answers, but you're teaching your child how to find the answer, and you can do that with them. I often hear people say, oh, I just couldn't teach my child anything. And I always laugh when they say that, because they usually say it, one, when they already have children. These kids are potty trained, they're walking, they're talking. Who do you think taught them to go in the potty, to walk, and to talk? Mom and dad. So you already teach your kids a ton. You teach them manners, you teach them how to treat their spouse. Your daughters are going to think that is how a wife is to be treated based on how you're treating your wife, dad, and the same for mom. The way you treat dad, that's how your daughters and your sons are going to think. That is how a man should be treated in his home by his wife. You teach your child a language. Also with homeschooling, don't give up if you don't see results immediately. Sometimes it'll take weeks, months, even years. But think about it. You teach a child how to speak, but that kid does not talk to you roughly for 2 years. We don't at 18 months stop talking to our child, stop encouraging them to talk just because they're not speaking in full sentences. No, you keep plugging away at it. And then one day, your kid stands up and goes, I would like lasagna, please, at the age of 2. So don't give up. You can teach them. It might be a slow process, but you will see fruit. You just can't give up immediately. It is a process, and sometimes it's a slow process. Homeschooling is hard, but nothing worth your while in life is easy. So homeschooling is hard. I'm not saying it's not going to be hard, but it is definitely going to be worth it. Whether you homeschool them for just this year, once they're done, you're gonna look back at this year and you're gonna say, yeah, it was hard, but it was worth it. I have never met someone who homeschooled their child for any amount of time and said, man, I really regret those 4 years I homeschooled them. Man, what a waste. No, you're not gonna say that. Yes, it's gonna be hard. There's gonna be some bad days. There's gonna be some frustrating days. There's gonna be some days where you guys don't like each other. That's okay. Homeschooling is just it's just an extended part of parenting. You're just educating your kid in education, not just manners and spiritually and socially. You're educating them. You're teaching them how to read and write, and it's just an extension of parenting. So there's going to be some days where you two drive each other crazy, and there's going to be some days where you wish you could do this every day for the rest of your life. But you can do it. It's going to be hard, but it's definitely going to be worthwhile.
I hope you have enjoyed Sarah's answers. They were very helpful to me several years ago. I've actually had the opportunity to meet Sarah's mom several times, and I was able to ask her questions as well, you know, being a homeschool mom in the 90s when it was like super weird. Now it's kind of trendy to be a homeschooler. But I also thanked her. I thanked her for homeschooling her daughters, because if she hadn't, I wouldn't have gotten the encouragement that I needed to keep going. And when I started homeschooling, there wasn't YouTube. There might have been somebody on YouTube, but I didn't know anything about it. That was not a resource I was gonna look into. So it was really nice to have some people that I could talk to. So if you have any other questions that you would like to ask Sarah, please comment below and I will add them to a list because I think we're gonna need to make another video. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you are not already subscribed, please do. It definitely helps my channel. It helps build our community of encouragement of homeschool moms and to help us keep going every single day, even when we have those super difficult days. And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.
Every change